Fights are won and lost off of the composition of a fleet, the decisions that the FC makes, the positioning, and a little bit of luck. And unfortunately, in FTAC-T, Silent didn't get a lot of that stuff right. So let's talk about what went right and what went wrong in this after-action debrief of the Battle at FTAC-T. Let's undock and get started. With the end of the Genfed War, most of the structure warfare in southern New Eden has come to a close, at least from Silent's perspective. Now, I know there's still some ongoing stuff with Void and Honk, but for us, it's been pretty rare that we've had a structure fights or major CTAs called because, to be frank, we're not fighting anybody right now. Now, there are certain pockets, and this was one of those pockets where corporations and alliances that had not either surrendered fully from the Pantheon War or had not been included as part of the terms with the Genfed agreement still held out and had some structures that needed to be attacked. Now, to understand the full context of this battle, I do want to look at the map real fast. If you look, FTAC-T is down in Delve and is actually bracketed by two systems, KTAC-6 and JTAC-L. Now, originally we were going to be coming in through KTAC-6, however, we realized that Genfed and their allies that were defending this particular citadel were all in the FTAC-T system on the KTAC-6 gate. They were already set up, so we actually swung all the way around to JTAC-L and went in that way. So they weren't quite in position yet. Our movement, I think, had forced them to kind of rearrange a little bit, which is fine. We started coming in here. We did go ahead and anchor up. As we're getting in, it was decided that we were not going to actually engage on this gate. There were a couple of smaller forces that were here, but ultimately we decided that we didn't want to take the fight here, but rather on the citadel itself. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and skip ahead just a little bit here. We've now fast forwarded a little bit here, and you guys can see where we're actually warping onto the grid of the citadel itself. Now, the thing that happened here that was a little unfortunate is that as we were repositioning and getting off of the gate, we tried to go to a planet that was next to the citadel that we would be able to warp to. The problem was that that planet ended up being fairly in line with where the enemy fleet was coming from as well. So when they warped in, they ended up only about 20 kilometers from where our main fleet was as well. Obviously, if we're looking at this and we know that they had a lot more ships on grid than we did, I think they ended up having about 50 battleships to our 30 or so. I don't remember exactly. I think it was 30 to 35. There was a big advantage for them in being able to get those ships in close and be able to really target our Logi much faster. Now, if we had instead been able to warp to a scepter or a safe that was maybe 1,000 kilometers off, we could have repositioned a little bit better. We could have tried to figure out how we were going to get our squads basically set before we got into the thick of it. This is where really I think kind of having a more experienced FC really kind of comes into play in how quickly they're able to react and understand what's going on. The FC that we had is fantastic. I love flying with him, and I absolutely will do it again. But this was one of his first major engagements. He wasn't really FCing during the Pantheon War or even really the Genfed War in a lot of cases. So this for him, I think it was just a little bit surprising, and it probably, I mean, to be honest, caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting them to land 20 kilometers either. But what happened as a result of that is that you can see with all of our Logi and everything that was in this kind of one bubble, we're all very, very close to the enemy, and unfortunately they were able to react very quickly to seeing that happen. Now you can see that our Logi is here kind of burning down in a way. They try to get out of there as quickly as possible, but you can also see the entire enemy fleet is coming down and trying to get to them as well. So it really turned the tide very quickly. They were able to get on top of our Logi. I mean, you can see they've already basically swung all the way around underneath us to be able to get to our Logi and get to grips there. Now, one other thing that I do want to call out here Again, I feel like I'm harping on the FC, and I'm really not trying to, because I've done this as well. Is that as an FC, you have a responsibility, obviously, to call targets and position the fleet and do all this other stuff. And in your mind, a lot of this stuff just happens really, really fast. And it's not a bad thing at all, because you want to be able to make decisions. You want to be able to kind of look at this and say, okay, boom, here's what we're going to do. And I really like the fact that the FC did go ahead and broadcast a bunch of targets. I think where we got ourselves into trouble a little bit is that we didn't focus down one target and kill it before moving to the next one. You guys can kind of see here, there were a lot of focus fire commands coming out. There were a lot of lock target commands coming out. And if we had stayed on targets a little bit longer, I think that we would have been able to remove a couple of those enemy ships from the grid early, while we still had the firepower and we were still able to do what we needed to do. Now, again, this is something that I struggle with as an FC, is knowing when to switch targets if somebody's getting repped or anything like that. And so it can be a little bit of a challenge. But I think that that's a learning for us, and one of our other FCs, Motorella, does a really good job of this, where he will only broadcast like 3 or 4 targets at a time, so that we all know, okay, this guy is going to be going down first. Once he's dead, we're going to switch to this one. Once he's dead, we're going to switch to this one. And it's kind of this rolling cycle. It's something, again, that just takes some time and practice, and I don't think that this particular FC has just quite gotten the reps to do it. But I fully expect, and I've talked with him about this, I think it's something that he's going to be taking as well. So I'm really excited to fly with him again in future battles. Now, the other thing that I do want to call out here, you can see our Logi is moving, and we're a little bit outside of, I think, about 75 kilometers from us at this point. Unfortunately, the enemy fleet is still in hot pursuit and right on their tails, and they were able to get on top of them very quickly. Now, this just kind of goes to show the importance of Logi and how quickly a fleet can melt if you don't have it. And so I'm going to keep playing here, but you guys can kind of see we're trying to pursue, but we're already 20, 30 kilometers behind the enemy fleet. And by the time that we are able to get there, unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of Logi left. Now, you can see the enemy Logi is coming in here as well. I think that, again, they were above us, I think about 50 kilometers at this point. Had we, instead of going after the fleet that was killing our Logi, maybe burned up, maybe we would have been able to do something. But it was just a little bit too little too late. The other thing, if you are going to be FCing, or if you're going to be flying a Guardian, that you need to be very careful of is your speed relative to the rest of the fleet. Now, you guys can see here that our Nightmare Guardian is about 16 kilometers ahead of me. I am obviously flying at right around the 1450 mark, and our main fleet, again, right here in the middle here. I think that I was like right here maybe, or something, or maybe that's me. I don't know. Anyway, just be very careful, be very aware. It's very easy, if you are calling targets, to get distracted and not be able to see kind of where you're going. If you're flying in either a Nightmare or a Ferox, both of which are typically faster than most other battleships, it's very easy for you to hit that gas and just shoot off and leave the rest of your fleet behind. So be very careful if you're flying those ships, and make sure that you're really paying attention to the position of not just the enemy fleets, but also your own fleet within it. Now, if we keep going here, again, you guys can kind of see that the enemy fleets are just tearing our Logi apart. It was not a good day to be a silent Logi. We did have another blue fleet. I believe these were the UF guys. Over here, they were trying to kind of get in on the enemy Logi. They were really doing a great job of keeping them occupied, so big shout out to those folks. I think that they were primarily flying, it looks like, again, in battle cruisers, so they were able to keep up with them a little bit better, and hopefully take a couple of the bad guys with us. Shouldn't say bad guys. Nobody's a bad guy in this game. As we come back into the fight here, you'll see that we basically end up just stopping because the enemy fleet is stopped here as well. We wanted to get in close, we wanted to brawl, and we wanted to make sure that in the limited time that we had without Logi, that we were going to be able to actually make a difference and hopefully take some of these ships off grid. During this, our Scepters were going in and out trying to catch different ships or catch the enemy Logi. I think that they had some mixed success there, but this really did just kind of turn into a brawl, and one that unfortunately didn't go Silent's way. Now, this being said, if we do go ahead and look here at the way that this battle kind of played out, you can kind of almost see the trail of wreckage. We were pulled away from the Citadel, so we really, didn't have much of a choice at this point of how to engage. Plenty of hick bubbles on all of that stuff. So it was definitely a messy, ugly brawl that we just unfortunately were not well positioned and really didn't have a chance to jump back into the driver's seat in this one. I do want to give a quick shout out to Damon Zell, who not only was in this fight and playing along, but this lovely little web and scram and all of this fun stuff was courtesy of him. He was nice enough to ping me afterwards and tell me that was his little parting gift to me. So I appreciate you, Damon Zell. Good flying with you, buddy. With friends like that, right? Anyways, back to our regularly scheduled programming. You can see at this point I am getting primaried. I hit my DCU here in just a minute, trying to just stay alive a little bit longer. I was calling for reps, but again, if we don't have any Logi, there's not really anybody to save me, so it happens. At this point, again, though, it does really just evolve into a brawl. Unfortunately for Silent, we were not able to, like I said, really kind of take the driver's seat back again. Either way, this was a really interesting fight for me. I really did enjoy it. Great fight to all of the participants. I'm going to let this kind of go as you guys are seeing this. But again, there's not a whole lot to break down because it is just kind of a big giant brawl. As a final wrap up here, we are down to, it looks like 30 battle cruisers, 18 battleships. The enemy, I think, was down to about 30 battleships and about 40 battle cruisers, I believe. So, I mean, in terms of this, just the total ships lost, I think that it may have been a little bit closer than I originally thought. Obviously, they won the grid, so I think that it's safe to say that they won. But it is what it is. So either way, great fight all around. This was a ton of fun. I'm really glad that I got to be here for this. It's nice when I actually have a fight in my time zone, so I don't have to like try to take off work or something. But either way, I'm just really, really pumped that I got to be a part of this one. It was an awesome fight, and great job to all of the FCs, both on Silent's side and on the Genfed side. I think there's definitely things that we can learn from. There's definitely things that we can take away from this type of engagement. But overall, I'm just glad that we're still having these big battles, that we're getting to really enjoy the type of content that Eve Echoes can provide. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you were flying here, I hope that you guys had an awesome time. Hopefully you guys got some kill mails. I did not get any, which is very upsetting. I needed some kill marks on my Tempest, but oh well. I think at this point my Hurricane Logistics might have more kill marks than my Tempest, which is kind of sad. But yeah. Anyway, well, you guys have a great one. Thank you so much for watching. As always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. So until next time, remember, kill marks last forever, and fly safe.